Hello, welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Well, I gotta say, it's been a crazy trip for 3 years, making these videos, going on 3 years. 11 years reading books, press releases, research material, watching thousands of videos, YouTube, etc. Sky spraying, taking pictures, videos, magazines. It's been crazy. Been learning things, as anybody would. When you keep on studying, you learn, and every now and then it just gets a bit absurd, crazy. Yeah? If anybody's been watching my videos or doing research on their own, checking into things, even you have to say, man, yeah, you're right, Rick, things have been getting crazy. Mandela effect, some kind of things changing in time, the spelling of products and TV programs and things people say. We remember one thing and now it's a different thing. I just watched a video a few minutes ago. It was kind of interesting. More research for me. But apparently, if you look up at the moon at night, on a clear night, and you see that half moon or sliver, you assume the rest of the moon is up there where it's supposed to be. If the sliver's right here, you would think the moon is right there. You only see in a portion of it. And it is shaped that way, so it's right there. Well, apparently some people are noticing, if you look at where the moon is supposed to be, in the dark portion of it, you can see right through it and you can see stars. And apparently, if you see the moon sometimes during the day, if you look up, it appears you can see through the moon and see the blue on the other side. Is the moon a big hologram? Was David Icke and the movie Matrix and all that correct? That all this is a big hologram. And that we're spiritual beings, and apparently the hologram is so high tech, we think everything around us is real. Of course, I, like everybody else, we believe this is all real. But the evidence, and there's plenty of evidence, seems to be that things are not what they seem. Seems that we have been deceived for a long time. So this is a new video, number 91, closing in on my 100 in the series Freemasonry and Satanism series. And FYI, back 3 years ago when I did something like Henry Ford's The International Jew book, I maybe named it number 4, and he has 4 books at least that I know that are published. He's of course no longer alive, but there are 4 books: volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4. And so I would name that series number 4, and when I did another one of his books, it might have been series number 7. Not like I've been doing it, keeping part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 for each book when I make more videos. So what I'm saying is, back then I'm going to go restructure that so they're all one series, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. That's going to leave me a few blanks when I remove Henry Ford from the other numbers I had used. So I'm going to pick different books and go make them and fill in those numbers so I can get this whole 100 series complete. And maybe I'll run through it 1 time, 2 times. It's taken me 3 years to do it once. Probably take me another year or so to do it twice. And who knows how many years for me to get to the final edition of filtering through this. But it is formulating in my mind a clearer picture of reality. Maybe a daunting task, but it is helping me see. With that in mind, this book, and let me tell you, if you think this stuff is easy to do on some of these books, I've got to tell you, no way. I got Helenita Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine I'm still reading. I got more books on the Kabbalah. I didn't want to be an occultist, but I want to know what they're thinking. What do they know? I'm not afraid of reading it. I know what I believe. I don't have to read that stuff and say to myself it's true. I can read it, and also using my reflexology, I can ask the higher power how much of it's true, what is true. And as Jesus even said, you need to test the spirits. Just because some entities from the other realm, dimension, however we want to see it, where souls go when people die, if they can communicate to people, they call them masters, demons, spirits, etc. Just because they can communicate doesn't mean what they're telling you is true. And if they are from the dark side, the satanic side, the Luciferic, the 1/3 of the angels that were thrown out of heaven, cast out of heaven, they would deceive you or I to attain their personal goals. And if they hate humanity, or if they prey on humanity, take energy from us, even vampirish, these entities apparently, according to my research, sacrificing people, drinking blood, eating the flesh, and they like the creature that they sacrifice, human or animal, to be in extreme agony for a long time. They like to prolong the death. Because apparently the entity emits a certain frequency from such great fear. And we all know frequencies are real, and apparently they're energies. So this particular fear energy, they seem to thrive on, these spiritual beings. You ever see a cat play with a bird? I'm sure the bird is not enjoying it on the ground, being batted around and gnawed at. But the cat seems to be enjoying it. So just saying, what are these entities or beings? And apparently they're serpent, reptilian type of beings. So anyways, Texe Marrs sends me a newsletter. If you don't know who Texe Marrs is, here's a picture of him. And he makes this little newsletter. And sends it to me. If you buy a product of his, I've talked about this before, he'll send you these monthly things, and if you don't buy something for a while, he'll stop sending them to you, because I'm sure they're expensive to send out and print. But apparently, throughout history, there are these serpent beings that eat people. I'm sure that serpent's not just kissing that guy or saying, "I love you." It looks like he's eating them. And there are ancient monuments all over the world, as we'll see in a moment. The rabbis teach that the crowned holy serpent, notice that crown, and we're going to notice that a lot, will produce the desired Messiah child. Christians believe this serpent to be the prophesied Antichrist. So here we are back with this religious thing. So what do the Jewish people think? And what are we supposed to think? That's what this video is about a little bit. And apparently, one of the books Texe Marrs was advertising was this book. When he sent me the newsletter, Holy Serpent of the Jews. Well, you know me. I got the book. I've been reading the book. I don't want to infringe on any copyright laws, so I can read small portions and pass it on to you and tell you what I think. And you can go buy the book. Go to Texe Marrs on the computer. You'll find his website. He's the author of #1 bestseller, Dark Secrets of the New Age. Such books as DNA Science, Jewish Bloodlines, Codex Magica, Secret Signs, Mysterious Symbols, and hidden codes of the Illuminati. A retired career U.S. Air Force officer, he has taught at the University of Texas. There goes that phone. I gotta work to pay the bills. Funny thing about that, huh? But yet I take out time, a huge portion of my time for the past 11 years. And I managed to survive, although I've had several financial crises because my business wasn't doing so well. But, and I'm not preaching here, I'm a scientist, so I believe, amateur. But I've always believed in God, and when I run into these problems, I talk to God and trust God in Jesus' name, and the money seems to show up. So I'm convinced there's more to this reality, and there's all kinds of books out there on positive thinking and belief. So I think our spiritual selves are connected to something more than just a person born who dies with no soul, as a lot of people seem to think. So if I'm connected and I get helped, and I believe in Jesus and God, and so I'm with the, I hope and pray, with the good side, God, not the dark side. So some people, if they're into magic, witchcraft, Rosicrucianism, Kabbalah, Zionism, all this other stuff, the occult, Freemasonic things, Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, where they throw a baby in a burning fire in the belly of a giant owl called Moloch. They call it the cremation of care. Please go look it up. Alex Jones snuck in there, took a video, you can find it on the internet. Richard Nixon was there. He said it was the, I'm going to say the nice words, but you probably know what he said. The darndest, gayest freak show you ever seen. Richard Nixon said something like that. So apparently this sex magic and pedophilia, pansexualism with everything, androgynous beings, transgender and all that, has something to do with this serpent religion. I'm telling you, I'm learning as I go along here. So what I'm going to do right now is just to start this newsletter I got. I think Texe Marrs will mind me reading just this newsletter and letting you know what he said when he sent this to me. You can go online and buy even one of the CDs or something not too expensive, and he'll send you this stuff. Seems to be a serious researcher with many books behind him and some bestsellers. He even said the FBI came by and visited him once, and he felt a little concerned, but they let him alone. So here we go, ready. The most destructive and evil doctrine in all the Jewish Kabbalah and the Talmud. Now, if these people, some Jews, believe that their God is a serpent being, and they are not from Adam and Eve, but the rest of us are from Adam and Eve. But this serpent, spiritual being serpent, put them here and said they are his chosen people. So apparently when they're God's chosen people, it's the serpent God, which is not the God of the rest of us from Adam and Eve, that God, the real God, put in the Garden of Eden, which the serpent showed up and beguiled them, deceived them, tricked them into doing something God said not to do. So I'm going to read this. Holy Serpent of the Jews. A few years ago, I was privileged to speak at a conspiracy conference in San Jose, California. My topic, President Obama and the Jewish Conspiracy, was well received by the audience, except for one irate conference attendee, a Jew. This well-dressed gentleman came up to me after I had spoken and was even angry. I can see that. Sure, if I was speaking before a conference, a lot of people would not want to hear what I have learned. Right or wrong, it's what I have learned, and it's up to me to make a decision what's true or false. Yes? No? So anyways, pointing his finger in my face, he screamed, "How dare you say such ridiculous things about God's chosen people?" Scrunching his face. I like this writing. He went on to tell me I would be punished and that I would roast in hell for my evil words about the Jews. Taking advantage of a brief interlude to his continuing barrage of outrage, I interjected. This is Texe Marrs. "Sir, you say that the Jews are a superior race to others. May I ask, why do you say that? Who made them superior? Didn't the Jews, like the Gentiles, that would be non-Jews, originate in the Garden of Eden? Are the Jews then not of normal human DNA? What do you think?" Not batting an eye, the man answered, and frankly, his answer set me aback for a moment. "We are not the same," he said. "Jews are a separate species. We were put on this planet by super intelligent reptilians from another dimension. Our rabbis say that we Jews are the people of the serpent." I gotta ask and say this. Is Texe Marrs lying? What motivation would he have to lie? He's a Christian. He reads the Bible. He studies other stuff like me. The same as me. Am I lying when that's why I do these book reviews and media and press releases and show the documents and tell you the page I'm reading on. Because, people need to get some kind of foundation of truth. Some confidence in what's really the truth. So I don't think, and I have much more proof to this, but his rabbi says that we Jews are people of the serpent. I don't know if I would want to say that, my God is really the devil. What are people to think? Of course, these days, people are so beguiled and zombie-like, they don't know what to think. Nothing serious anymore. It doesn't matter that they're killing all those people in Turkey or Syria or Iraq, Afghanistan, and the whole northern Africa, middle Africa, Brazil, Central America, and the craziness going on in the United States, and the overthrow of the Ukraine president. Something sinister is going on. So let me continue reading, and maybe we'll know why. Our rabbis say we Jews are the people of the serpent. Even you Christians have admitted how wise and intelligent is our God, the Holy Serpent. So if you're a Christian, you believe in God, and He sent Jesus here, His Son, and the Jewish people over there, the Pharisees, were annoyed at His teaching that He taught that treat others how you want to be treated. And this outraged the Jews over there, and so they had Him crucified. So they think that they're better, and the rest of us are animals and should be slaves to them. And I'm not making that up. That's stuff I've read and said in other books. The Holy Serpent, says Texe Marrs. Was this Jewish man actually claiming to serve a serpent deity? Was he confessing that it was this Holy Serpent who first seeded the Jewish people on earth, and that the Jews were, therefore, chosen as His people, the people of the serpent? If the rabbis are teaching this, remember, as I've said before, there's 3 types of Jews, just like there's 3 types of Christians, etc. Even Muslims, and any religion. The one type are the people who take the religion very seriously, the Orthodox. And then the other ones who reject the religion altogether and don't like God because they don't want to behave and told, like the Ten Commandments, what to do. So they have turned towards the devil. So that's two, one to the right, one to the left. And then the third one, of course, is people who are really not into religious, they call secular. They go through their whole life, they don't really want to be Orthodox and they don't want to go towards the evil, they just want to be a good citizen and leave me alone. But of course in the Bible and other places it says, if you're going to be lukewarm, one of those people who don't care can just watch the news and see all the Syrians being bombed to smithereens on a daily basis and just switch the channel to some comedy show you want to watch. That's lukewarm. You don't care. And apparently God says he's going to spew those people out of his mouth. So I guess it's not a good thing to be uncaring. Apathy. I don't care. Or foolish and ignorant and thinking that, hey, I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton because the Democrats are better, or Donald Trump because the Republicans are better, and not knowing that these serpent people are in control of the whole thing, and they're beguiling and deceiving all of us. I think a lot of people these days will agree that that's probably true. So being in the center of where the majority of the people are, by the way, lukewarm is not a good place to be. So you got to stand for whatever you choose, but it is a choice. And I do believe that the gay agenda, not that I hate gay people, I don't hate anybody, but the United Nations using the propaganda to put all this mind control on people and change the whole country and the world against Christianity and against decency, against the Muslims' religion, against all religions, and go towards this serpent, Luciferic religion, New Age, New World Order. I'm against that. And I've got plenty of documentation, and it'll be in my future upcoming videos. I've obtained more information and more, and they're coming out with it like crazy. There's even a website now, Illuminatian, and they're saying they are the Illuminati, and they've been here all along, and do not fear or worry about this poverty, war-stricken planet, that they're going to come save us. The devil's going to come save you. Are you believing that? They worship the devil, the serpent. And apparently another document, probably a lie, but I went on several websites and looked at it. I find it everywhere. But apparently the Queen has come out of the closet. I don't think she said she was gay, but she said she is not totally human, and people will get used to it. So are they with this Illuminatian website, and are they in this temples of Baal in New York and London, and 1,000 other ones sponsored by the United Nations, UNESCO? Temples, arches of Baal, where Baal is the devil. And are they some kind of portal, some kind of magic stuff? And then, of course, CERN, recently, if you go look on YouTube, they turned it on, there wasn't any clouds in the sky, but you could clearly see a vortex, like water going down the drain in your tub, or the sink, or the toilet. And you could hear the sucking sound. So I keep continuing to say there's something to this reality that we all need to wake up to. It is not what we think. And now is not the time to be ignorant and stupid. With that said, I'll get back to reading. My apologies. I get ranting on. So, Texe Marrs was a little taken back by this guy. The Holy Serpent. Was this Jewish man actually claiming to serve a serpent deity? Was he confessing that it was this holy serpent who first seeded the Jewish people on earth, and that the Jews were therefore chosen as his people, the people of the serpent? Yes, that was exactly what he was telling me. And what he said caused me to initiate a great search for the truth about today's strange doctrines being taught by Jewish rabbis. And again, They call it Reformed Jewry. Prior to World War II, the bulk of the Jews, many of the Jews, were against Reformed Jewry. That would be like saying, forget the Ten Commandments, I'm going to come up with my own commandments. Reformed Christianity. What they have today with this gay agenda and everything. Aleister Crowley's do as thou wilt. But so back then they had this Reformed Jewry, and it was by the Franks and the Sabbatins and some other cults, Kabbalah, stuff like that. And the good Jews had a bunch of rabbis and had a lot of power and would not go along with the Reformed, let's call them evil Jews now, and their desire to take over the land of Canaan, Palestine, to create the state of Israel, to bring something out called Zionism, which is to rule the world from Mount Zion over there in Israel. The good Jews didn't want this. And the Rothschilds and the Reformed Jews, the ones into the Kabbalah, occult, witchcraft, wanted this. So you got two Jewish camps. So it is my opinion, in Germany, the good Jews were doing quite well. Germany was doing quite well, I think, as a result of those good Jews being there. And that growth in industrial base was growing, which irritated Britain, and hence that was the cause of World War I. And then at the end of World War I, the Britons wouldn't honor their Balfour Agreement, their agreement to give the land of the Palestinians to the Rothschilds to create the State of Israel. So they had to have World War II. And Albert Pike, 100 years ago, 1880-something, said that there would be 3 world wars required to bring about the New World Order. So we got one more world war to go. I know, I think we can prevent it if people wake up. The lukewarm people wake up and join over with the good people. But a bunch of them, obviously, are going to the dark side. If you look at the tattoos on people's bodies and the symbols they're doing, and their eye and all the other stuff, it's a bit bizarre. And the people in the gay parades, looks like a freak show in the gay parades. I don't think anybody can lie about that. The way they dress and everything, they outdo clowns. It's just too freaky. I'm not talking about gay people, I'm talking about the gay parade. Look, take a look in Tel Aviv. It's just bizarre what they do. And look at that grand opening for that tunnel in Switzerland under the Alps. Clearly a satanic show. And even all the audience, dignitaries from all over the world, and the news media, they were all talking amongst themselves. You can listen on YouTube, saying, what the heck is this? It's too bizarre. It's a freak show. So apparently there is this serpentine religion, the serpent beast. I thought about this morning. If you or I were in Africa, way out there in a safari, and the guide says, stay close to camp. Don't go out there in the fields. There's lions and tigers. How many idiots would say, hey pal, let's go out in the field, don't listen to the guide, and let's go see if we can pick some strawberries or something. It ought to be cool. Would you do it? Well, most normal people wouldn't go out there to be eaten by a lion or a tiger. Okay, one more example. So now you're on a safari or a guide trip down there in the Amazon. And the guide says, way up in the Amazon, in the backwoods. And the guide says, don't go swimming on these streams. There are anaconda, gigantic snakes that'll eat you. How many people would look at their buddy and say, well, the guide is gone. Let's take off our clothes and go skinny dipping. There's no anaconda around here. I could just see the anaconda now saying, oh my God, some naked people I can eat. But people wouldn't do that. I mean, it's just stupid. Okay, now getting back to this. So if we know there's this serpent race of beings, like the queen saying she's really a serpent, and apparently these are the elites, have some kind of mixed DNA, where they do sacrifice people, shapeshift into the serpent being, and viciously tear into a person, slurping up the blood and eating the flesh. wouldn't it behoove the rest of us to, like, wake up like the anaconda or the lions and tigers, that we would wake up to that? But if these beings are real, you can see the snake there, and the sun and the moon, the religion, wouldn't it behoove us to wake up? And if the bulk of the Jewish people who have turned to the Reformed religion, who I believe had the good Jews interned in prisons and camps to get rid of them because they wouldn't go along with Zionism, ruling the world from Mount Zion and Jerusalem. So those are the Jews, I believe, that were killed in Germany and Poland. Actually, most of them were shipped to Poland. And they died of disease and starvation and other stuff. It wasn't as described in the theory of the Holocaust, that Hitler was determined just to roast 6 million Jews. It's not the case, not according to scientific research. But in many countries, if you try to say that, you can be arrested. And apparently they even have assassins who will go out and kill people who are trying to suppress or deny the new one world religion of the Holocaust dogma. So it's a big deception. And the devil is the deceiver. That's one thing people just don't understand. The devil is the deceiver. He's going to deceive. You speak to beings, masters, and interdimensional beings, you don't know who they are. You can't trust them. But apparently Jesus said you need to test the spirits. And one way to test the spirits, like me when I use a pendulum or reflexology, I say, in Jesus' name, is this the truth? Am I being deceived and lied to? And apparently when you do that, the whatever energy is controlling your pendulum or your reflexology, or like Nikola Tesla said, he saw visions and heard voices and had dreams from these beings, is where he got his information, which I found out through my research that a lot of famous people, that's what happened to them. They were able to communicate with some kind of beings, visions, voices, dreams. Even some angels appearing almost human-like, talking to people. This is throughout history. This is not deniable. So anyways, this is exactly what he was telling me. And what he said caused me to initiate a great search for the truth about today's strange doctrines being taught by Jewish rabbis. So the Reformed rabbis have turned towards these interdimensional beings, spiritual beings, which are serpent-like. And in the Garden of Eden, the serpent-like being deceived Adam and Eve to eat the apple, to do something that God said not to do. So apparently this stuff is real, and this Jewish guy says the rabbis are teaching this now. And they did destroy, and they're still destroying, the good Jews, even as Jack Bernstein, in that book I went over, The American Jew Who Went to Israel, he tells all. Bloody Zion, that tells all. The Jewish Utopia by Professor Higger, that tells all. Protocols of Zion, that tells all. The Kabbalah, the Zohar, the Talmud, so much, and I'm going to go over more of this stuff, and I've gone over tons of it. So let me just finish this portion on this little pamphlet, and then move on to some stuff out of the book. The result of my quest for knowledge has resulted in my newest book, Holy Serpent of the Jews. In fact, the most important of the various Jewish sects does speak of the Jews' birth and the existence inside a huge serpent. So they got this sculpture here. Thomas Medak produced this giant steel serpent. Medak says his creation is inspired by the mysticism and religion and symbolizes the spirit of the world. So they're coming up with all this strange symbolism. It's supposed to be a gigantic serpent snake. According to Professor Israel Shehak of the Hebrew University in Israel, he explained in his outstanding book, Jewish History, Jewish Religion, many, if not most, religious Jews honor this serpent god and even pray to it. So here in America, they've got most people, especially the young people, believing there's no such thing as God and that Jesus was a myth. They've been programmed, taught, and even since grade school. So why would the serpent want to destroy the Christian religion? Why did the Jews back then have Jesus crucified? Why did the serpent deceive and beguile Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden? What about Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed because people were getting perverted and decadent? The Tower of Babylon, these people were arrogant, trying to build a tower to get to God, and they were destroyed. There's just too many examples. And all these Grammys, Emmys, football halftime shows, the grand opening for that tunnel in the Swiss Alps, all these satanic rituals with the horns and everything. That devil they wanted to put up in the state building in Oklahoma that finally got to Detroit, and they had a grand opening ceremony, and all these people came looking like they were freaks, witches and demons and all that stuff with this devil, with two little kids looking up at awe. And now the release of that video by the Illuminatian, go look that up, and they're coming here to save us. Rabbi Joel Bask in 2007 published an article, Journey to the Center of the Torah, The Secrets in the Serpent's Belly, in which he claims that the primordial holy serpent is the source of the highest good. But Blask maintains that the holy serpent brings with him certain concealed light, serpentine energy that is destined to propel man into godhood. It's New Age stuff now. Be careful, Kundalini, Shakas. And I believe that this powerful knowledge is available. Jesus was healing people, casting out unclean spirits, and Jesus even said in the future that you will do greater things than I. So I don't think that God's creation of us and us gaining the knowledge to use the pendulum to find water or the whatever else, this healing people, I don't think these are evil things. But given to people with no conscience, no empathy towards others, but are selfish, and they use that power to maintain their own reality at others' expense, then I think it's abusive use of these occult energies and powers. I think the mind is a powerful thing. If you want to think ill of somebody to some strong degree, you probably can really hurt them. But I wouldn't suggest anybody try it, because the punishment for that from God's realm is severe, in my opinion. I'm not speaking for God, that's my opinion, from my research. You need to love one another, treat others how you want to be treated, like Jesus taught. He is then, to the Jews, a very sacred beast, the serpent. This teaching, says Busk, is the feature of the Jewish Kabbalah. Remember, Madonna's into the Kabbalah. They're all into the Kabbalah and the occult and magic and witchcraft. It was first discussed in the Kabbalah school of one of the Judaism's most famous and scholarly rabbis, the Gaon of Vilna. The Gaon of Vilna further taught in the Zohar that the worldly and profane serpent would, in Masonic times, when the Messiah of the Jews has come, be redeemed and revealed in all of its glory and awesomeness. Leviathan, apparently is the name of this holy serpent. This is a Jewish New Year's postcard wishing somebody Happy New Year. Alan Roth, artist. The word written in Hebrew at the bottom of the card is Leviathan. So, Happy New Year's. And here's a picture of the holy serpent, Leviathan. Crazy. So there's more to read in this book, this pamphlet, but I think I'll just go to the book and see where that takes us. And again, do I get any personal satisfaction and joy from learning and sharing this stuff? Not on your life. It's just too crazy. But I'll get it through on this video and then move on to something else. Alright, so let's continue this video and look at the book. We see the six-pointed star of David in the background. The holy serpent of the Jews, Texe Marrs. Some crazy stuff in here. DNA Science. Here's a picture on the back of the book. Inside jacket. DNA Science and the Jewish Bloodline. Here's an interesting thought. Are all humans the same? The answer, of course, is no. We've got nice, decent people. People you just love to be around. You've got jerks out there, idiots. They come into your home and you can't wait till they leave. You got heroes out there who save people. Maybe rescue them in a shooting or a crime. It's in the news all the time. And then, of course, you got the shooter or the criminal. So people are not the same. So what is it that makes up their character to make somebody a serial killer? A career criminal, thief, a con artist, a decent moral businessman, or somebody crazy like me who spends 11 years trying to find out what the heck is going on in the world. How many people bother to do that? Not too many. How many George Washingtons are out there? Not too many. John Quincy Adams exposing the Freemasons, President of the United States. John Kennedy trying to say that there's a secret group out there, cults or societies controlling our world, and he was going to expose it. And look what the evil forces did to him. 911. Those weren't some guys with box cutters taking down Building 7 that wasn't even hit by a plane. Free fell. Danny Zarowicz, however you say his name, from the Netherlands, expert in demolition, looked at Building 7 and said, it's clearly demolition. And he's dead days later, whatever. So what makes people different? Why, for 2,000 years and longer, did the Jewish people have problems with everybody else? I know throughout history the American Indians were fighting each other. Central South America, the natives were fighting each other. The Chinese, the Japanese, the Mongols. So we're all not saints. But there is a particular group of people that seem to stand out and are right now, they control 50% of the Supreme Court in the United States. Why is that? When they're 2% or less of the population. They control the pornographic industry, the movie industry. They're predominant in these things, the banking industry, and so much more. You know, are they into the cult? Do they know how to use magic? Do they have these interdimensional beings and forces assisting them? And do they really believe, as it's said in their books, that they think we're animals with no souls to be disposed of as they see fit? And apparently molest and have sex with 3-year-old little girls and much more horrible things. Some of the videos you can watch of their satanic rituals of sacrificing people, particularly young little boys, puncturing them with maybe hundreds of little holes, collecting the blood in cups or a bucket underneath, then drinking it, prolonging the death of the non-Jewish little boy. All this kind of ritual to this serpent god. And as it said in here, some kind of interdimensional being. So I'm going to read some of this book and throw in my 2 cents and let other people make what they will of it. I don't think Texe Marrs is being insincere in his research. So about the cover of the book, it says here, the Biscone is an Italian heraldic charge showing a serpent in the act of consuming a child. So that's a child that the serpent is consuming. And remember, not all Jews, of course, but there are apparently many of them in the pictures and videos I've watched on YouTube and books and stuff like that. Throughout history, they were caught sacrificing children, and they were arrested and sometimes killed, sentenced to death, run out of town. The citizens, wherever country they lived, were very unhappy when they did that kind of child sacrifice, which makes sense to me. So consuming a child. The Biscone was the emblem of the House of Visconti from the 11th century when the royal family controlled the city of Milan. So it seems like a lot of these royal families, like Fritz Springmeier talks about in the bloodline of the Illuminati, use these serpent, dragons, snakes in their shields, their family crest. And so are they really slightly some kind of other DNA, as we read in that letter or the pamphlet from Texe Marrs earlier in this video? So these people with castles and controlling cities, these elites throughout history, had these serpent beings on their family crests and shields and monuments in their yards. The word Biscone is derived from the Italian bista, which means beast. As a symbol for Milan, the Biscone is also used in the stylistic design as logo of the Alfa Romeo car manufacturer. And if you look at the Alfa Romeo car logo, it has a serpent, I suppose, eating a child. The Biscone is often seen as wearing a crown. And we notice the crown representing the royalty, even in England, everywhere, Rothschilds, the crown on the head of the serpent. So what are we talking about? It's taken me 11 years to get to the point that, man, they didn't teach me this in Catholic school. So I highlighted some more stuff on the index of this book. Holy Serpent of the Jews, the rabbis' secret plan for Satan to crush their enemies and vault the Jews to global dominion. So it says, don't copy this as provided by copyright law. It says here, in the day of the Lord, when his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan. So this is in the Bible, talking about punishing Leviathan, the creature eating the child. The piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea, Isaiah 27:1. So there's a lot of stuff in the table of contents. The Jews, a great people, a priestly people, on a global scale, ? Chapter 1, the Holy Serpent of the Jews. Chapter 2, Jaws of the Serpent. Chapter 3, the Great Serpent of Solomon and its serpent. Remember, they want to rebuild King Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and they're working on that right now. So if I'm a spiritual being, I have a soul. This is a biological body, bioelectrical. And so that's that kind of soul. And I want to believe in Jesus and believe in God and try to be a good guy. And hopefully barring all my sins and everything, I make it, I get to heaven. But, so that's a realm elsewhere other than this yard, which might be some complex hologram matrix. So there must be another realm where these entities, these spiritual beings, maybe they're different kind of spiritual beings too, have a serpent god. Just saying, it seems to use your logical brain to be the case. Triumph of the Holy Serpent, the Rabbinic religion of man-made traditions, and I will say, I am aware, I've gone over the books, I'll go over them again. Rabbi Marvin Antelman, To Eliminate the Opate, Volume 1, Volume 2, Nesta Webster, so many more I have. But apparently there was a big divide in the Jewish religion, Jewish people I should say, and a lot of them turned away from God's commandments and God's laws, and they went to another god, apparently. And apparently this was the same god of the Egyptians, you know, the pharaoh with the big cobra on his head. So I guess it's some religion called occult magic, Kabbalah, that they learned while they were in captivity. And they decided to stick with that and turn away from the God, Moses' God, who gave the Ten Commandments. So I guess you could say we have a celestial battle going on, something above and beyond this planet in other dimensions. And it is affecting and bringing, or has always had, Earth involved in that celestial battle. Just trying to come up with sensible conclusions. The serpent force and the Jewish covenant with death. The incredible sex gods and goddesses of the Jewish religion. And repeatedly androgynous beings that are both men and women. And sodomy, like in Sodom and Gomorrah. And bestiality, the mythologies of having sex with animals and creating these strange creatures, half man, half animal. Apparently this has gone on through history. And throughout history also, apparently God, in his infinite wisdom and decision-making power, his control, and several times he wiped out whole cities and even the planet with the Great Flood to try to erase the polluted creation of mankind. It was too far gone. Riding the serpent, the dragon, the serpent, and the creative destruction, the Jewish serpents and the tree of life, the Masonic banquet, the holy serpent, and the great purification. Double think and practice, the two dual serpents of Judaism. I'm just reading the index here. Serpent's burning hatred. Freemasonry and Judaism worship the same Egyptian gods. Texe Marrs, I'm going to tell you, is a smarter guy than I am. I've come to the conclusion by naming my series Freemasonry and Satanism, and my conclusion is I made a correct choice. It says right here, chapter 14, Freemasonry and Judaism worship the same Egyptian gods. So it wasn't the original Jews who the God, Jesus' father, Jesus of course wasn't born then, that was 2,000 years later. But in their prophecy, in the Jewish people's prophecy, in their religion, they were prophesying the Savior to come. And ironically, when Jesus did come, they rejected him and had him crucified. Alright, it says here, we shall be our own Messiah. Are Jews the master race? Ancient homosexual warriors make a comeback in Israel. Tel Aviv right now is, I guess, the #1 vacation spot for gay people. Protocols of the learned elders of Zion. We've gone over that. I'll go over that again. Path of the serpent. The man who gave the world the protocols of Zion. Bloody Zion. I've gone over that book, if that's the same thing here. Hellstorm. Remorseless killers of Zion. Twofold more the child of hell. Alright, introduction. I'm going to read this. Introduction. The Jews, a great people, a priestly people, on a global scale? Question mark. Satan has a plan for a one-world religion. And for a lot of people, so you can get past this stuff that just makes you go crazy. And me. Let's just call them beings that were spiritual realm, another place other than here, where our souls come from, our spirits. That there are these entities, and apparently they're all not in one camp. In the Bible it says, in God's world they cast out 1/3 of the angels. So wherever they are, we have these entities, and they are communicating with humans on earth, and maybe they did create a different DNA strain of humans, and maybe they have been here all along, with the pharaohs in Egypt with the cobras on the head, and Isis and Osiris and Horus and Ra, and names like Lucifer and Baal and Moloch, on and on and on. And paganism means many gods. So apparently this demonic supreme being is a god of many names. And the number one commandment in the Bible for the Christians and other people is there shall be only one God. So I've been saying this all along. You can really tell the difference between the God's world and the Ten Commandments, his moral and decency laws, and Aleister Crowley's The Rule of Law That Do As Thou Wilt, is their laws are the opposite of the Ten Commandments. So where it says there shall only be one God, in their world there are gods of many names. And the second commandment is thou shalt not worship idols, and they worship these gods of many names and in many shapes and many idols. So they have a plan on this earth, the evil god, the serpent, which are there admittingly is kind of a ghost-like. It's not flesh and blood, unless he can transmute into that, or I do know they have a lot of possession going on in the world right now. This has gone on forever. They have priests who are exorcists. So this stuff appears to be real. So they have a plan for a one-world religion and a one-world government. We're all aware of that pretty much. A lot of people are waking up, and even the government and the politicians are admitting it and saying that we have to deal with it. But I know to pull this off, they do want to disarm we the people, and they are using the sky spraying, HARP transmissions, and other stuff to ecologically attack the earth and give us weaker crops and kill off plants and animals and bugs. They're destroying our ecosystem. So whenever they do create this big event, it will be very difficult for people to find food and survive. Just using my God-given brain. Coming up with conclusions from my research. This religion will be led by his chosen people, the Jews. This would be this serpent god. The holy serpent, the beast whom the rabbis adore as Messiah, will rise up out of the abyss. He will anoint the Jews as gods and destroy their hated adversaries, the Christians. So when I keep saying this stuff, it's not me. You can pause your computer and read it. Right there by my finger. The hated adversaries, the Christians. This destruction shall be known as the Great Purification. After the hated Christians are vanquished, the Jews, now divine gods of planet Earth, will celebrate their victory at a momentous feast of the beast. Well, I believe in Jesus, and I believe when, as it says in the Bible, when this thing does happen, some people will just disappear like they were beamed up Scotty, into Star Trek. But apparently God will remove me and other people from the planet who do not want to be involved in this feast of the beast. And I guess you can tell who will be the food for the beast. It'll be the non-Jewish people. Thus shall the kingdom of the Jews be filled with light, and the age of the Jewish utopia be inaugurated. The above statement captures the true and accurate theological basis of today's Judaism. I will prove conclusively in this book that the rabbis teach these incredible things and that they are deeply ingrained in the Jewish religion. I don't really want to read this stuff. Frankly, this is Texe Marrs, I find that Judaism is a repugnant and loathsome religion. Judaism is a phallic sex, cult based on self-worship by Jews and on the adoration of none other than the serpent. Yes, that's right. The God and Messiah of the Jews is Satan, who is the serpent. Worse, the Jews, who comprise only a tiny percentage of the world's population, are nevertheless in such powerful and influential positions today that they are capable of bringing their monstrous religious beliefs to reality. That belief system includes the conquest of America. And go look up Benjamin Netanyahu in Fink's Bar. See what he says. Do not believe me. Go look it up. If you don't look it up, then you don't have a right to go have an opinion. Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said in a heated argument in his Congress, "Don't worry about America, we control America." Go look it up. Go get a book like this and buy it and read it and share it with your friends. We need to be like Paul Revere. We need to be ringing the bell. Alarm, alarm, alarm. And it does say in the Bible, I shall be a shield to those who seek refuge in me. So if you believe in God, you believe that Jesus came to earth, you believe that they crucified him, you believe that he rose from the dead, not trying to be religious, this is what's written. Apparently you have a method to avoid the calamities and being the food for these beasts when they have their feast. That's a mouthful. So they're a tiny percentage of the world's population, but nevertheless, and I believe this is true, we all pretty much know it, they control our politicians, they're in positions of power and all over the world, and they have slowly worked towards that goal. 1920s, plus or minus, they had congressional hearings on communism. They created communism, these people, and they said that they were infiltrating everything. Schools, churches, health systems, educational, everything. They've done it. Remember, Obama has let a lot of generals and high leaders in the military go. Probably ones that they deemed wouldn't go through with the killing Americans. Powerful and influential positions today that they are capable of bringing their monstrous religion beliefs to reality. This belief system concludes the conquest of America and the world by the Jewish elite and the establishment of dictatorial New World Order. Is there anybody who doesn't believe this? Did we just see recently the 37 cities with the organized Black Lives Matter? This is July 2016. Does anybody not know history? They organized the women's movement and other movements to create revolutionary activities to further gain power. They didn't really want to help women. They wanted more people in the workforce and they could tax them. They wanted to break up the home, the family. But prior to all that, a man made enough wages to support his wife and kids, so she didn't have to go to work. And the moral laws and family values kept most people together, much less divorce rates back then. Families ate at the table together, talked together, grew up, went to college, supported each other. But they've destroyed that, and if you read the documents, they said they were going to destroy that. Read the Protocols of Zion. These facts are so astounding, so mind-boggling, that I feel obligated to explain. This is Texe Marrs here. I'll throw in some of my 2 cents after 11 years of continuous book reading and research. All right, conventional wisdom is wrong. 3 decades ago, 30 years ago, in 1987, my book, Dark Secrets of the New Age, so Texe Marrs has been doing this for more than 30 years, Dark Secrets of the New Age was published. It became an instant bestseller, raising the top of the Christian bestseller list. In that book, I warned of the unexpected emergence of a vast planetary network of thousands of networking New Age cults, religions, and spiritual entities. And I'm only reading my highlighted portions. If you really want to get the meat of the material, go buy this book. I'm not trying to do an audio book. I'm just trying to make a point. I read books, I do a short book review. At the time of their writing, I knew little about Judaism and its essential doctrines. And by my research 11 years ago, when I was just trying to find out what the heck is going on, I had no idea where it would take me. Raised evangelical, like almost every other Christian, I erroneously believed that Christianity was simply an extension, even the completion, of Judaism, the religion of the Jews. And I can tell you now, it's not. I've read the J-Post, the Jerusalem Post newspaper. I've got folders this thick, several of them, of press releases that I haven't even started making videos on, of press releases in the J-Post, Jerusalem Post, back in 2007 and 8 and 9 and 10. And I printed out even the comments from the people, like we do here with the comments of press releases. And they hate Jesus, and they hate Christians. It's not a religion like Christianity. They had Jesus crucified. They want to destroy Christianity. They control the Freemasons. It says it in all the material I have. Nobody can deny it. All the lower level Freemasons are probably not in cahoots. Come on. Even mistaken women who join witches' covens don't really know, until maybe later on, what's really going to happen when they do the ultimate satanic ritual and bring in a live body and sacrifice it to death. Then they say, yikes. None of these things are true, lies of the rabbis. The pastors have simply neglected to read and study the Bible. They simply accepted the smooth and deceptive lies of the rabbis. And even the non-Reformed, the Orthodox rabbi of the Jewish Congress in the United States, Rabbi Marvin Anthelman, he exposes all this, as well as many other Jewish people and rabbis and PhDs. Henry McCow, Jewish PhD author in Canada, smarter guy than me, wrote a couple books. And he wrote the book, The Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. And apparently, I forget what that one lady's name was, I'll try to remember, it's in my previous video. She exposes all about the Illuminati and how in their satanic rituals, there's a couple women who got out of there and exposed it. The Illuminati, just like witchcraft, they abduct somebody and sacrifice them. And the smell of the blood and the fear of the individual being sacrificed excites these people, the ones with the reptilian DNA, to such a degree that they lose control of themselves and shapeshift into a snarling reptilian, and then they viciously attack the body of the victim and drink the blood and eat the flesh. It's one savage little feast. Can you imagine if they do this on a grand scale and all these people can shapeshift into reptilians and take over a crowd of people and just start tearing them apart and eating them? What kind of beast are we dealing with? Who are the aliens and UFOs and all this stuff? You can read about this criminal con man, Cyrus Schofield, in the excellent book, The Incredible Schofield, in his book. So, they've been poisoning our minds. Satan has been a great success at poisoning the minds of Christians in recent decades, causing many to accept the strange concepts of Judaic superiority, physical Israel, and the Old Covenant. Least we forget, Israel has something called the Samson option. And again, please don't believe me, go look it up. So they did acquire nukes, stealing the technologies, espionage. And apparently the world is aware of it, but if the world tries to stop these serpent beings, who can get vicious, apparently, the Samson option says that they will release the nukes and take down the world in a burning, flaming inferno, the whole world, if we try to stop them. This is what we're dealing with. But do our politicians and leaders tell us the truth about this Samson option? Can you go look it up and verify it? Everything I say. Benjamin Netanyahu thinks bar. We hate America. We're going to destroy America. That's what he said. More than that. Somebody was, he was having a little speech and somebody turned on a tape recorder. Same thing with Prime Minister Sharon of Israel. Somebody recorded what he said when they were having a heated argument in their Congress. Don't worry about America, we control America. And like in that newsletter, when that one Jewish person was angry at Texe Marrs earlier in this video about his, at a conspiracy conference, and he angrily said, no, we're not from Adam and Eve. Oh, I'm paraphrasing. You can go back in my video and read what the pamphlet said. But our DNA is different. The serpent came here and made a different concoction of human species, and that's what we are. So anyways, Texe Marrs says, subsequently, I went through a 20-year career in the U.S. Air Force, retiring in 1982 as an officer and having commanded a number of successful units. I am also blessed to have graduated summa cum laude with a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree from North Carolina State University, Texe Marrs. So there was this guy, Schofield, Cyrus Schofield. I was reading my highlighted portions. I'm not going to read a lot from this book. I think you can get the gist of it, and you might want to go get the book. Was a crook and a con man who abandoned his wife and fled Kansas. He showed up in New York City where he joined the exclusive Lotus Club. That's that three-petaled flower. And how come they made the lotus symbol a symbol for the Boy Scouts? Might want to ask that question. Wealthy Jews helped him to publish his own edition of the Bible, the Schofield Bible. The notes in his Bible were pro-Zionist and spurred the Judaized movement in evangelical churches. Today, evangelicals, especially Baptists, revere Schofield as a saint. Alright, so Texe Marrs says here, in 1986, my wife Wanda and I gave our lives fully to Jesus Christ. That made all the difference in the world. I opened the pages of my Holy Bible and immediately set up on a great spiritual odyssey, studying false cults and religions and focusing on the burgeoning, fast growth of the New Age movement. It's funny because my historical past is interesting. I'll explain. I have an electronic technology technical degree from United Electronic Institute and a 2-year degree from a community college. I was pursuing a physics degree. I worked at a major aerospace company for 10 years. Before that, I was in the Army for 3 years. 2 years I worked after I got out of the Army in a lumber construction company, learning all about lumber and construction. And 10 years at a major aerospace company, like I just said, working on high-tech electronics for the space shuttle, satellites in space, F-18 jet, B-1B bomber, mostly research and development, working with scientists. And then after 10 years, like 1,000 other people, we got laid off days before Christmas. And I decided to make a change in my life, and I went down to a certain school, got a license, and have been in business for myself since 1990. So 26 years worked for me. 10 years prior to that, a major aerospace company. 2 years prior to that, just a construction lumber company in Augusta, Maine. And then, of course, 2-year schools and 2-year schools and 3-year Army. Makes me an old man. And no criminal record, and I don't think I've ever been unemployed. I've always worked for myself or whatever. No bankruptcies. And when I turned 50 years old, I decided to go to do something crazy. Everybody gets crazy a little bit when they turn 50. Went to Costa Rica, sat at a tiki bar in Jaco Beach on the Pacific Ocean. And people started to tell me things I didn't believe. Here I am, an American in Florida. Had power boats and water skied and surfed and windsurfed and sailboats and lived a pretty good life right by the beach. Melbourne, Cocoa Beach. So when I got back to Florida, I didn't believe what these men told me. And I was the only American at that tiki bar having a beer. And I started looking it all up. And after a couple of weeks, I actually got very angry, very unbelievable. I said, man, these people were correct. One of the things they pointed out was the sky spraying. So that would have been 2005. So I started photographing the sky spraying almost immediately. It only takes a second or two, just take a couple snapshots and move about your business, your job, your life. But at the end of the month, I would catalog them all, take about an hour or two. I did this for years and years and years and years. Then, of course, the cameras improved and I went to videos. And all along, I was reading books and buying old books. I have a vast collection of books now. And then I promised myself I would wait 10 years until I decided I would write a book. And I had written quite a bit. I was doing a lot of essays and commentaries and on press releases and other stuff. So then I started making videos. Anyways, 3 years later, on this series, Freemasonry and Satanism. And about January this year, I started the New World Order one, media and press releases, and other miscellaneous videos. So I've been accumulating a lot of knowledge. And my point is I started out just wanting to continue with my engineering. As a young boy, I wanted to study anti-gravity and alternate energies. Those were my fantasies. So when I decided to do research, I really didn't plan on getting into the psychic research or all this conspiracy theory stuff. I just bought old books to try to learn science because I felt that the colleges, from the magazines that I have read, were withholding some valuable knowledge. And as I found out reading the old books, I learned about dowsing. I didn't know a lot of these people, Michelangelo, Isaac Newton, all the ones you can think about were into this occult. Nikola Tesla talks about it. So that opened up another door of research for me. And then it went on from there, Freemasons, and it just kept on falling like dominoes. It seems when you start looking into things, they start falling in front of you, which is said many times by many people. So Texe Marrs here says, I bought most of the books on Kabbalah and quickly realized that they were part and parcel of the New Age. I also discovered the Kabbalah was extremely important to Judaism. So basically they're into natural sciences is a good word, which means they know more about physics than they share about reality. Opening portals and communicating with beings in other realms. And the original origin of mankind. Lots of things. So we call it magic because none of us knows what it means. And I'm sure 500 years ago, if you brought in a laptop computer, everybody would be thinking you were doing magic. But it was basically science. So I consider myself a scientist. So when I read this stuff, I look at it from the point that there is more to reality than we know. There are other realms of spiritual beings. We all know that. Even Jesus was casting out unclean spirits. We're all aware of exorcists and casting out possessed demons in people. We're all aware of UFOs and aliens, so-called pictures of beings, and if you go on YouTube, dark spots will appear in the sky like a vortex, and a craft will come through. And apparently these things are not necessarily solid like steel or wood. They look like they are, but they're of a lesser dense material. And apparently people who have been abducted by some of these alien beings, when they cried out in Jesus' name, whatever the being, whoever it was, whatever it was abducting that person, would drop them like a hot potato. So the name of Jesus is powerful. Jesus Christ, God calling on the Lord, like it says in the Bible, whoever seeks refuge in me, in Proverbs, I shall be a shield to them. Just FYI, people ought to know that calling on God does work. Hence why Rabbi Marvin Anthelman wrote the book To Eliminate the Opate. That means your belief in God. And opate also means being under the influence of opium and drugs. When you believe in God, you're under the influence of God and the power of God. The majority of their studies have to do with the Babylonian Talmud, the Jews' book, actually some 68 volumes of 613 laws and commentaries. And one of those laws is they can have sex with 3-year-old little girls. This means, of course, that Judaism, infused with teaching of the Kabbalah and the Talmud, is a new age to its very core. Given this inescapable connection, I have now spent almost 30 years studying both the Talmud and the Kabbalah. And if you've been watching my videos, my last 6 or 7 in the series, because I kept talking about the occult and magic, so I had it all planned out that I would go into those eventually. But they're big, thick books like the Bible, and I knew it would be a daunting task to read that and to understand it. I had to prepare myself. Now that I am reading it and sharing it, and I'll be going over it some more, and re-releasing videos like I just released 85 or 84, Part 3, Morals and Dogma, the 25th Degree, the Night of the Brazen Serpent. So I got to release Part 5, which I think was more interesting than the one I just released. So Texe Marrs spent almost 30 years studying the Talmud and the Kabbalah. And he comes to this conclusion that there is this beast serpent that is worshipped by the people who are trying to destroy Christianity, these Zionist Jews, not to be confused with the Jews who did not join the Reformed Jews who joined Lucifer and Satan and many other names for their gods, Moloch, Leviathan. They still believe in the Old Testament and God's 10 Commandments. And if you go online and look up Zionism on the Yahoo image site, you will see many of them protesting, and many books that they have published, and much material that the good Jews are trying to warn us about the bad ones who turn to this other godlike serpent being to be their God, so they could rule the world. And they hate we people who are not Jews. They call us Goy and Goyim, which means cattle. And they plan on having a big bloodbath on earth, according to my research. Judaism is a radical cult. So I kind of don't like Texe Marrs just not pointing out the good Jews who have been trying to warn us. That's what I believe. It is not based on revelation, but on a combination of skewed human reason and rampant human fantasy. Both the Talmud and the Kabbalah are authored by biased Jewish rabbis who have rejected the truth of Jesus Christ. So yeshiva students in Israel, this is what they do. Here in America, do people study the religion material very much? Not many. Very few. But what do they do over there? Future rabbis study the Talmud and Kabbalah. Most spend no time at all directly studying the Torah, the first books of the Old Testament. So they don't want to study the Old Testament. They are taught that the Talmud is much more holy and much more worthy of study. This is going on pretty intense in their schools. So you've got an army of people around the world into this stuff, and pulling in a lot of non-Jewish people who have been blinded. So I'm just going to jump over this and try to get this video done. I'm not going to do even all that I have highlighted. I'll try to move faster just to give you a gist what's in the book. The Kabbalah teaches that God encloses the universe within himself, that the holy serpent named Leviathan is the angel of help, that shall lift the Jew to rulership of planet Earth, and the Jew must do both evil and good works to ascend to godhood. So they have to do good and evil to ascend to godhood. God then is himself both good and evil, and this is what they teach in Theosophy, and a combination of both darkness and light. The Kabbalah teaches that the holy serpent is the Messiah of the Jews, and the great secret is that the serpent is, in fact, the God of the Jews. Satan's world religion. These are the primary things you must know of the Talmud and the Kabbalah. You should be aware that these basic facts to be able to defend yourself, your family, and your nation in the ongoing war of Satan's world religion. So if you believe in God, period, then you know and you believe that you have a soul. You know there's another realm out there. And if you believe the Bible, a third of the angels were cast out. In this heavenly realm, there was a big revolution. And apparently this is taking place on Earth. It's not that far-fetched. We can see it. We can see the symbolism in the grand opening on that tunnel under the Swiss Alps. They're playing it like a play for anybody who wants to watch it. The Madonna at the Super Bowl halftime show with the horns. Katy Perry at the Super Bowl halftime show. And Grammys with the horns. Beyonce, Lady Gaga. And I could go on with many more names of these people. What about that one event in Europe, Eurovision, like the American Idol program, singing contest? Anyways, it's called Eurovision. And the winner was Conchita Wurst. Conchita means a female part, Wurst means a male part, sausage. Get it? With the head dressed like Jesus and the body as a silky dress on a woman head, androgynous, get it? Sex magic. Singing the song The Phoenix Rising with the words in that song that you can't stop us. They keep on telling us what's going on. The Hunger Games movie, they keep telling us, look what's going on in Venezuela right now. Just right out of the Hunger Games movie. The elites have food and they're living large, while everybody else is picking garbage, eating pigeons, even their dogs and cats, and starving. And it's the wealthiest, one of the wealthiest countries probably on the planet, with all that oil, gold, and diamonds, which the United States Geological Survey federal agency did a survey and has a huge document pinpointing, describing this vast wealth. So one can only assume that they would like to have this wealth, but they don't want to support the population. So they intend to probably starve many of those people and die of disease and everything else. And when they riot, they'll be killing them. And it appears like they're planning that here in the USA. Again, do I really want to be saying this and doing this video? I got better things I could be doing. Going down to the jazz bar with my friends and having a couple beers. Come on. Going to the beach, going boating. Focusing on my business and making a lot of money again. But I suspect my subconscious mind and my conscious mind knows you can't take any of that stuff with you. What's the right thing to do? Spend a little time and share this stuff that I read. Simple as that. I'm nobody great. And if people picked up on my stuff and went with it and it started spreading around, I could quit and slow down and go back and try to make enough money to pay my bills. These are the primary things you must know of the Talmud and the Kabbalah. You should be aware of these facts, basic facts, to be able to defend yourself and your family and your nation on the ongoing war with Satan's world religion. Judaism embraced of the number of the beast, 666. You will read also on Tukum Olam, the Jewish plan for the New World Order. I've gone over that in previous videos. The ones I took down I'll be putting up after I review them again. And the great purification mentioned in the Kabbalah. So like the Georgia USA Guidestones say, they want 500 million people on Earth, slaves that they'll need to run the Earth and mine all those minerals and take care of the cattle and farms and cities and sweep the streets and be their slaves. Sex slaves, worker slaves, entertainment slaves, warrior slaves, police slaves. They have a plan, but they have a great purification coming. So the people who do not worship, and you can't, even if you worship their God, they think less of you anyways, as is described in the Jewish Utopia by Professor Higger. Go look it up. Or the Protocols of Zion. They even laugh at the non-Jews who have joined their side. They think they are so stupid because at the end of the game they're going to be enslaved also and destroyed. They hate them. There is no exclusion. Michael Margolis, a Jew and an authority on the Kabbalah, suggests that humanity is now at the threshold of the coming of the Leviathan, this beast. The serpent. The great purification is at hand, he says, of the Jews. We are being born as a great people, a priestly people on a global scale now. Many other rabbis echo Mr. Margolis, trumpeting the claim that the serpent is about to complete his long journey and that the New Age kingdom of the Jews, their utopia, is ready to be unveiled. So with that said, I had some pictures. I like to do little mix things up here with my videos, as you are aware. Well, the Bohemian Grove I talk about a lot, where a lot of our presidents and other elected officials and other elites, CEOs of major corporations, meet in the Bohemian Grove in California. They have a gigantic owl and a fire in the belly called Moloch, the owl, and they throw babies into it called the cremation of care. They have this thing that sounds like a Halloween show, screeching and drums and hollering, and the men, leaders like our presidents and leading politicians and CEOs, are naked with long robes as part of this gigantic Illuminati satanic ritual, and they bring in homosexuals for sex for these men during this satanic ritual while they're throwing the baby in the fire, with all this hollering and screaming that you can watch on the video with Alex Jones videoed in the Bohemian Grove. They're worshiping some kind of god, doing some kind of ceremony, and they're probably non-Jewish people, but they have to do this to appease their Jewish masters. They have to feed children to this demonic evil god. And like I said, many of our evangelical leaders and the Catholics and other religions in the United States probably believe in this serpent beast and don't think they have a choice. They've given up on God. And you can see the symbols of the name of this particular guy. You can look at him up. But he totally supports Zionist wolves in the church. The next Holocaust, Dr. Chuck. So a lot of people have sold us out. And everywhere you look, even President Clinton, Obama, they're all doing the devil sign. Isn't this guy, the Pope that didn't die, that just stepped down? Doesn't he look evil? Look at the devil sign on his hands. Look at this rabbi. So the rabbi's doing the devil sign. There's Serpent God. The Catholic Pope. And if you'd have showed me these a year ago, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have really understood. The six-pointed star, even the Pope is acknowledging, apparently, that six-pointed star, and the Knights of Malta symbols on his white collar. You can't make this stuff up. You can go on Zionism and Images on the Yahoo image site, where I got these, and just save them to a folder, put them on a little memory stick, and go to the pharmacy and print them out. Show them to your friends. Non-Jews exist to serve Jews. Israel's shepherdetic leader, Rabbi Ovidia Yosef, in his weekly Saturday night sermon said that non-Jews exist to serve Jews. Goyim, cattle, were born only to serve us. Without that, they have no place on earth, in the world, only to serve the people of Israel. This is 10/18/2010. If anybody thinks this stuff is something of the past, they're seriously mistaken. You can go look this stuff up. So you can back up and go hit pause. I just had to hold it there long enough so you can get a good view. Once we squeeze all we can out of the United States, it can dry up and blow away. Former Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, after leaving U.S. double agent spy Jonathan Pollard's jail cell. So Jonathan Pollard was the spy, he was in jail, and Benjamin Netanyahu said, once we squeeze all we can of the United States, it can dry up and blow away. Also read what he said in Fink's Bar. I didn't make these pictures. You can go on the Zionist image site and find them yourself. Hitler or Rothschilds? This is backed up by Walter Langer in his book, The Mind of Hitler, in which he states, Adolf Hitler's Adios Hitler was the illegitimate son of Maria Anna Struckengruber. Marie Anna Struckengruber was living in Vienna at the time she was conceived, and at that time she was employed as a servant in the house of Baron Rothschilds. As soon as the family discovered her pregnancy, she was sent back home, where Alice was born. You can see this video, see on the bottom the name of the video where I watched it. So I don't believe everything I read and watch, but after a period of time, and I see so many different sources and so many different books, so many different magazines, so many different videos, so many different press releases, and the events unfolding in front of me in the world, on the news and the media and the TV program, and the movies like Hunger Games and Divergent, and assassinations like Kennedy, and stuff going on these days, Black Lives Matter, being organized to create days of rage in 37 cities, as if we need something like that going on right now. And all these seemingly crisis actor fabricated shootings to help, I guess, bring about the gun confiscation law, activity, legislation in action, so when they do pull off their thing they're going to do, Bloody Planet, that most of us will be disarmed and it'll be easier to murder us. I'm just saying. It's what it seems. This is America. We do have free speech. I can read and interpret what I read. Freemasonry and Judaism worship. So Freemasonry and Judaism worship the same Egyptian gods. Again, the website where I got this is on the bottom, Texe Marrs. See on the bottom, Texe Marrs. Six-pointed star, 6 mini triangles, 6-sided hexagram. So this has got 666 in this thing, your symbol. And the leading Freemason for the South, southern jurisdiction in the United States of America during the Civil War was Albert Pike. The Second World War must be formatted by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel and Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must be strong enough in order to control Christendom. And like I said before, if you look it up, in the 1920s, plus or minus, they were having congressional hearings, and a lot of the communist people confessed that they were infiltrating everything, including the Catholic Church, educational, medical industries. The world pandemic begins. Judgment is coming. Prepare for the Day of Atonement. So they're lying to us. They want everybody to believe it's something coming from God, when it's them. And they're conspirators who are not Jewish people. And maybe some of these people really are Jews, because I am aware that a lot of Jewish people pretend to be Christians. I keep mentioning Henry McCall, the Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. Here's his picture. Canadian PhD Jewish author writing that book right there. So much material is in that book, matching Texe Marrs material. And a lot of the symbols, even for our space program, Air Force, they got these dragons, these serpent beings. So I guess they believe this serpent god is real. The pharaohs in Egypt had the cobra on their foreheads. So this interdimensional, spiritual-like god serpent being apparently is real. And they have the serpent biting its own tail, commonly known as the Ouroboros. In Norse mythology, the world serpent grows so large that it encircles the earth and bites its own tail. So even in the Norse mythologies, they worship this serpent being. Freemasoninformation.com. These symbols are in Hermetic material, Rosicrucian material, witchcraft material, Illuminati material, all these other occult organizations, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bilderberger groups, witchcraft, Zionism, Kabbalah, witchcraft. And this is an interesting picture. Egypt. The Pharaoh, the all-seeing eye. And apparently that big round circle around that guy is a snake. The guy is inside a snake. The all-seeing eye, God. So this being, this God, the Library Association, Portland, Oregon, the Library Association in Portland, Oregon, has Illuminati and a snake in their emblem. Now I know there's supposed to be a separation between church and state, so wouldn't worshiping the serpent also be some kind of church? Should it be the symbol for our libraries? And on the logos on the uniforms of astronauts and Air Force pilots and military? So apparently church and state means Christianity and state. It doesn't mean the devil and state. Some of the symbols of these cults, of these gods, are the cow, bull, the bird up there with wings, and Leviathan, as you see there, the serpent. I'm learning more as I go. But apparently, the serpentary philosophy, theology, Helena Blavatsky, serpentary means 7 spheres, 7 spheres. Just imagine 7 balls on top of each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And apparently they believe the souls rise up through one sphere at a time or descend from the spheres. And the reason they use the rose, because the rose has 7 petals. So this is this cross with the rose and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the star on this woman and the triangle. You see the round thing? That's the serpent. See the serpent biting his head, biting its tail? And then the rose, Rosicrucian, 7 petals, serpentine. The 8 stars, in what we think there would be the Statue of Liberty type woman. Ashtar is one of their female deities. So all these symbols, I'm starting to get better at interpreting them when I see them. Again, another symbol with the man with the bird's head and the serpent feet, with the snake eating its tail. These symbol. And also, George Washington Monument, they got the child with the serpent in his hand. The song that I said, the Conchita Wurst at the Eurovision contest, and he, she, Conchita Wurst, head dressed up like Jesus, the body like a silky dress woman. However you say that. A woman, a slim body with a silky dress. Looks like a woman. And this androgynous thing is a big thing in the Kabbalah religion of theirs. But the Illuminati and the House of Rothschild. So their shield has this phoenix bird on it. And I think the fountain yard in front of the Rothschild's house has a bunch of reptilian creatures. And apparently, crazy as it seems, that there's some material out right now that the Queen is admitting that she's not all human. And apparently, again, this could all be crazy lies, but Putin won't go near her because he saw her, the leader of Russia, he saw her shapeshift. And David Icke, in all his books, claims that she's a dual DNA, has reptilian DNA. And apparently they feast on human blood and flesh to maintain their human shape. So you got the Freemasonic symbols and the morals and dogma, the Knight of the East and West. Look at the symbols. Look at the pyramid. Look at the rays of the sun. They worship a sun god. Look at George Bush at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem with the hat on. And they got this game, this Illuminati game. I'm sure people know this, a lot of people. But you go online, look up the cards, and this game was made before the event. And some of these events haven't happened yet. And then we're aware of the Boston bombing on 666 Boylston Street. These 2 guys blamed for doing it with these satanic symbols out front. The columns. These pictures were on the Zionist website. Or the Illuminati website. A lot of the movie stars are part of the program for the Illuminati, controlled by these serpent race people, doing the Madonna right there, like I talked about at the Super Bowl halftime show, and Beyonce and so many of these other people. So I got a lot of years of study on this stuff. Anyways, it's them, the big guy there, with all the money, these serpent Jewish people, against us. Do we have a chance? Here's that card game again. Many of the different pictures, you can look them up. Like I said, some of these events haven't happened yet. Here's another card that's interesting. At the top would be the Illuminati, the Serpent God. And then, of course, the Kings and Queen on the second level. Then the Pope and Vatican and the Illuminati, the third level. And then their henchmen, the people with the machine guns and weapons. And then us on the bottom. So this is the pyramid. The Serpent God on the top. The Kings and Queens under that. The Pope and other leaders under that. The military under that. And then, of course, the dead people on the bottom, us. And like in Venezuela, the elite people are letting the other people starve to death while they're having a feast. Is a picture worth 1,000 words? And their logos are everywhere. They dominate everything. If you know what those logos mean, you can see all-seeing eyes. You can see pictures that go like circle, like the SWAT sticker next to the clamshell, shell stations thing. The V is a 6, so Volkswagen would be VVV 666. If you can look at all these pictures, you will see the star and the circle, which is a witch's circle, a star and a circle. So all the corporations, most of them, if you weren't part of them, you wouldn't be in business, you'd probably be dead. Many cards, many pictures you can go look up on the Zionist Illuminati site, on the Yahoo image site. I keep saying that because it's just a super resource, and it has a little link there to tell you where Yahoo's search engine got that picture from, so you can go back and see that person's website. Stalin, Hitler, these were all financed by these Serpent Jewish bankster people. And of course they create all these wars. Apparently these people may have the Serpent DNA. Apparently the Queen does, according to even her admission, if the videos are correct. I know that they're coming out of the closet all the time now. I know that the people sent over there, Karl Marx and Stalin, Lenin, all that, were financed and trained by the Serpent banksters, worshippers, and they were sent over Russia to create the take over the country, abduct the Tsar, kill him and his family, and have a bloodbath of all the people. See all the bones on the bottom? That one guy's being lined up against the wall to be shot. Bloody Zion. And the ancient religion of the Egyptians and all that have the serpent being. So is there this serpent god as described in the Bible? The Ankh, that thing in the middle with the T in the circle. The T means divine, and the circle means snake. As you can see, the big circle with the snake and the SWAT sticker. So divine equals T. And on top the circle, as you can see by the snake eating its tail, on that Ankh, means serpent. So it's the divine serpent. And of course the six-pointed star, which is on the Israeli flag. You can start noticing the symbols. The serpent, like it says on Texe Marrs' book I'm going over, has a the six-pointed star behind him on that one. But I'm saying the one on Leviathan there, that's page 15. I want to point something out here. You'll notice it if you pay attention. But the serpent has a crown on its head. I mentioned it before. Remember, the crown of England, the king and the queen, which apparently are serpent beings. So I'm theorizing that the war between the different countries in Europe, in the world, in these castles were probably serpent DNA beings, and they were probably fighting each other for domination. The serpent beings were fighting each other. The citizens knew nothing, of course. But I'm just pointing. Do you see the crown on top of the snake here again? swastika, the six-pointed star, the star that's on the Israeli flag, and of course the serpent with the Freemason symbol. And here's Leviathan again encircling the earth. It's on that postcard we saw earlier. Happy New Year! And they put Leviathan on the card. Six-pointed star, the Mason symbols, the dragon, the crown on his head, the wings. And even in Mexico, Quinceañero, whatever, Mayans, they got the serpent being eating its tail. So whatever this spiritual being was, remember also in the Mayans were sacrificing people to death, and then they would also throw the body and the head down the steps, and the citizens would grab it and eat it. So apparently the ancients were into that ancient religion, and it wasn't just over there in Egypt and Israel. These serpents apparently were in leadership positions around the world everywhere, apparently including China, India, everywhere. Crazy? Alright, just a little more from this book. Alright, this ought to put two and two together as far as we can talk about the gay agenda. And I said 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I said it's not just about gay marriage. It was on the radio, and only 30% plus or minus were for gay marriage, and overwhelmingly 60-70% of the world said no, it's crazy. And I had arguments with my friends as the years went by, and I said it's not going to stop there. I said once they get halfway there, it's going to get much, much worse. And now they're trying to even take away, not only are they trying to lower a child's age of consent, they're trying to eliminate it, period. And they've had universities and professors and educated people, psychiatrists and stuff, saying that a man's inclination to have sex with a child is a normal thing. They were born that way, get it? And then pansexualism and transgenderism and so much more crazy stuff. So if this is a serpent religion and a New Age serpent world they want to bring us, the opposite of the Ten Commandments, and God's, in the Bible it says that a man should not lie with a man. So whatever God wants, these people hate God and they want to do the opposite. So maybe it's this 1/3 of the angels, spiritual beings who were cast from heaven. I'm just putting two and two together. So let me read this, page 69. Hokmah, the father god, and Binar, the mother goddess, sexually united and lighted up each other. The incredible sex gods and the goddess of the Jewish religion. The mother conceived and gave birth to the son. Through the birth of the son, the mother and father found perfection. This led to the completion of everything and the inclusion of all four deities: Father, Mother, Son, and Daughter. This doctrine elevates human sexuality to the divine principle and humanizes God. David Ariel, Kabbalah, The Mystic Quest in Judaism. That's a book. For there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man Jesus Christ, Christ Jesus. That's in 1 Timothy 2.5. So you got two different systems here fighting each other. So the people who worship the serpent beast, of course, want to destroy the believers in Jesus and the Ten Commandments and morality. It's their arch enemy. Hey, want to be a member of a sex cult? That's what it says here. Well, what about joining the Mormon LDS Church? Their doctrine promises men that if they are faithful to founder Joseph Smith's message, they can end up as God of their own planet. Supplied with untold numbers of celestial wives. Smith himself, historians say, had some 36 wives. I'd like to see how he could afford that today. Imagine the dental care, medical insurance on the kids and the women. And that was just here on Earth. Think how many he might have somewhere up in space as potentiate of his own very planet. The twin promise of unlimited sexual pleasure and ascendance to the divine's throne of one's planetary kingdom seem to be irresistible lures to many. This is Texe Marrs here, and I'm only reading my highlighted portions, and on these 2 pages I highlighted a lot. So I think I'll read these 2 pages and leave the rest of the book, which is just a bunch of material in it. Here's an example of some of the stuff that's in there. Talks about everything, but I can't read the whole thing. But as a student of false religions and cults, I have always been interested in uncovering the strange and bizarre doctrines and teachings of what I call the sex cults and religions. Mormonism and Masonry, twin sex cults. Mormonism is one such religion. Starting to not talk right. Start to get worn out. And the sex angle in its doctrinal tenets is actually one reason this spiritual group is one of the fastest growing religions in the world, which reportedly some 15 million members, Mormonism is closely connected to another religious cult, Freemasonry, and in fact, Joseph Smith and all the LDS Church earliest founders were Freemasons. So I know back in the early part of the 1900s, there was a big event where some Masons killed Captain William Morgan because he disclosed the goings-on and the material in the Freemasons' books. So they abducted him and killed him, and it became a big scandal in New York and Chicago, everywhere in the news, because everybody was conspiring, judges and representatives and police people, to protect the villains who abducted Captain William Morgan. So they got so much hatred towards the Freemasons that many of the people left the Freemasons to protect themselves and their reputation. And what they did is they created the Mormonism as a safe haven and a place for them to go. So just like they do these days, they just change the name of an organization and its outward appearance, but it's the same thing. They do that in child services. If somebody does something bad and it gets in the newspaper, it could be called Child Services America, and then they'll change it to Assisting Child Care, and everybody will think it's a different organization. They just change the name. They fool everybody. Masonry, too, is a fertility sex cult. Masonry. The Brotherhood's common logo, the Masonic square and compass, is the sex symbol indicating the sexual union of man above and the woman below. Wow. The G within the symbol stands for geometry, Gnostics, and generative act, Gaia, the feminine principle, and God. Unfortunately, the Masons' God is Lucifer, given by the Brotherhood of Masons the cryptic name Grand Architect of the Universe. The generative act, of course, is a code phrase for sexual intercourse, and every one of the cult's 33 rituals is permeated with sexual meaning. So I think I'll end this video. I only read a couple pages of the material, but you can go to Texe Marrs' website, and I'm telling you right now, it's just page after page. Even the protocols of Zion, his analysis. Edward Hendry, Bloody Zion, I went over that in my previous video. So Texe Marrs looks at a lot of other people's material like I do. Symbols all over the world of these things. So if you wanted to have any idea of what really is going on, this book probably will... Here's this Leviathan beast. How many TV shows have we seen with creatures like that? Get the book. Wake up. Look around you. Pay attention to the news. Ask why these things are happening. When some big event happens, a nuclear explosion in some harbor, and they blame it on ISIS or something, know who it really is. Know that they're planning some event so they can restrain everybody, disarm everybody with all these gun shootings and bombings, and increasing the police state, shipping all kinds of weapons to our police departments, sheriff departments, even the federal agencies who have nothing to do with warfare, buying ammunition and weapons while they're trying to disarm the people. And that video I mentioned earlier, look it up, Illuminatium, AM. And apparently they're coming out of the closet, and they have a video with the Earth and the solar system. It's like right out of a Star Trek movie. And they say in a very solemn voice, "We're here to save the planet. We've been here all along, guiding humanity." Well, I see they're eating some little child. And these monuments are all over the planet. So I don't suspect they're telling the truth. And Satan is the deceiver. If he's this evil, you can almost agree and understand why God would toss him and his cohorts out of heaven. And maybe they want to destroy God and be God and bring us a world like this, where they eat humans, thrive and live off of humans, like they've been doing since 1913 when they took over the Federal Reserve and have crashed the system eight times, I believe, causing everybody to lose everything, and with the banksters, and they can just print money, paper, buying up everything that people worked an entire generation for. And then they let the economy grow again, so people accumulate stuff again, and then they do it again. And apparently, according to my research, this was done in the 1900s, 1901 to 1999, in the United States. But from 1801 to 1899, they did this in Germany. They crashed the system numerous times and caused a lot of economic chaos and anarchy. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting. I think everybody needs to pray a little more, and a little more, and a little more.